Have you ever wondered, how can I play like a world champion? What would it take in order to be that incredible, that inspiring, that brilliant in your chess games? Today, we will answer that question. We're going to learn how to completely replicate Mikhail Tal's chess game. We'll start by looking at his favorite opening for white, as well as his favorite opening for black. This will allow you to set up your pieces and open the game just like the 8th world champion did. Then, we're going to look at some of his most famous, brilliant sacrifices. We will analyze his positions and figure out what exactly is he looking at and what are his principles for attacking brilliantly and efficiently. Finally, we're going to learn the Magician of Riga's secret endgame tactics, where he was able to turn any even position into a win. If you are ready to play like a world champion, let's get started. Now, when talking about Mikhail Tal's openings, you have to bring up his Sicilian defense. 1e4 followed by c5. Welcome to the Sicilian. Mikhail Tal played this in 22% of his games. This was his favorite opening for black. Here, we're not trying to take control of the center directly. We are using the c-pawn in order to control d4. Normally in this situation, after knight to f3, you will see something like knight to c6. However, Tal plays the Sicilian defense a little bit differently than normal. He would go for e6, with the whole idea being of possibly pushing d5 and also rerouting the bishop to a more active square. Here in this situation, we see the move d4. In this position, Tal goes ahead and takes, and after his opponent takes back, he plays a6. The whole point of his Sicilian defense is to route his bishop from f8 all the way to c5 and then down to a7. He's going to eye down the f2 square. He will most likely play b5 and put his bishop on b7. What we immediately notice in Mikhail Tal's opening preparation is that he doesn't like to trade down pieces, and many times he's going to utilize his bishops. He's not trying to beat you right away. He just wants to get his pieces on good squares. Mikhail Tal's favorite opening for white was the Roy Lopez. He's played it 29% of his games. Here we see e4 with the idea of getting his bishop and queen out as early as possible. e5 is played, and after the knights develop, we see bishop to b5. The point is simple. Tal is an aggressive player. He is threatening the knight right away and trying to undermine the defense of the pawn here on e5. He can also castle very quickly and launch an attack. Normally, the Morphy defense is played here, a6, but Tal does not take the knight. Like I said, he's not looking to trade down. He wants to put his bishop on a good square. So bishop to a4, the knights develop, and here castles. Bishop to b7, and here rook to e1. Tal gets his bishop on b3. Later on, you will most likely see c3 followed by d4, breaking open the center and releasing the other bishop. Once again, guys, no minor pieces are traded, his bishops are in really good squares, and he's ready to attack. This can clearly be shown here in our first middle game position. Notice that by move 20, Tal has not traded down any of his minor pieces, he's only traded 2 pawns. In this situation, he has great development, his bishop is attacking the king side, and his knights are active in the center of the board. Knight takes the pawn on e6. I want you to notice a very common theme with his attacks. They often start off with a inaccurate, odd, dubious move that's not engine brilliant. In this situation, the idea is pawn takes, queen comes to g4 looking to attack with check. The bishop is in a really good square and the rooks are ready to attack eventually. This move would scare many opponents, and in this situation, Mikhail Tal's opponent didn't take the pawn here on e5. He was most likely afraid of counterplay and instead plays queen to b6, just defending the pawn. Here, Tal launches an absolutely unbelievable attack. Rook d6, attacking the queen, also attacking the pawn. But what about this bishop? We can just take the rook. The issue is, he is no longer defending the pawn on e6, queen check, and here you have to move the king over, otherwise, if you move the bishop in front, it's just checkmate. Tal finds the absolutely unbelievable bishop c4, threatening checkmate on f7. But guys, once again, the pawn here is attacking the bishop and you can just take. But the issue is, by taking that bishop, you're ignoring the rook that is going to come to f1. And here, after that move is played, we have check. And look, the king is completely suffocated. Now, there is one saving grace here. Knight to f6, and in this situation, you might think, okay, maybe we can survive this. That is not how Mikhail Tal operates. Sunglasses on, rook f6, brilliant move. And in this situation, pawn takes back is forced, bishop h6. This is absolutely insane. This is checkmate, game over. Check out this position here. Notice that once again, Tal has not sacrificed any of his minor pieces or major pieces. Everything is still in play and only 3 pawns have been traded. In this situation, Tal finds the absolutely ridiculous bishop b5. This is actually an inaccuracy, and the whole point is this. If you take this bishop, you are actually losing. The issue is, by not taking this bishop, you lose the rook, and you are admitting that your opponent is slightly better. In this position, any sane chess player will take the bishop. The issue is, we immediately find knight to g3, checking the king, the queen, and the knight. Knight takes back, and in this situation, we go ahead and take his knight, forking the king and the queen. Pawn takes back, and look, we have check. Of course, after the king moves over, you might be thinking, okay, we're safe. This is not an ideal situation, but at least the queen isn't on h8. Unfortunately for our opponent, Mikhail Tal thought this through. Here we find bishop to c5, checking the king. No matter what our opponent does, this is forced mate. Let's say pawn takes. Rook h1, brilliant move. King takes, rook h8, great move. King moves over, rook h1, brilliant move again. King takes, queen h8, great move. King g1, and here queen h2. This is check and mate as well. The game is completely over. Notice here that the bishop's threat is absolute. If you go ahead and block with the rook, h1, brilliant, king takes, h8, great, king moves over, rook check, brilliant h1, king takes, and once again the queen comes over to h8. Yes, there are a couple of pieces that can jump in front to delay the inevitable, but after the king eventually goes to g1, this is also just going to be checkmate, just in extra moves. This is actually a back rank with a pawn, rook, and queen. One final position here, he has the bishop pair, and in this situation, it has come at the cost of his pawn structure. If this was a positional endgame type game, I am sure that black would be in a really good position. Of course, he finds knight e6 brilliant. He's attacking the queen, he's attacking this pawn on g7, and of course this pawn can't take back because of the pin on the king. Notice that this is going to be an awful threat, so something like g6 makes a lot of sense. You're blocking the queen out of the way. The issue is, black is not playing any ordinary chess player. He's playing Mikhail Tal, the absolute legend, the Magician of Riga, finds queen e5, sacrificing the queen. After pawn takes back, pawn takes f7, check. Notice if the king moves over to f8, it's checkmate on the spot. This would have been absolutely beautiful. A move like king d7 makes a lot more sense, but here, simply just bishop to f5. It looks like a sacrifice, but this time Tal has a double check. Of course, you can't take the bishop, you have to defend this check. This move is actually forced. King to c6, and here bishop to e4, attacking the rook. Knight to d5, bishop takes. The king has to go to d6 or d7, doesn't matter. Bishop takes, discovered check. Look at this position here. This pawn is going to be nearly impossible to stop. While Tal is known for these absolutely brilliant and exciting middle games, you cannot sleep on his end games. He was the best in the world at them for his time. In this situation, notice that we are in a dead even game. It is 6 pawns on the board, and it's a bishop versus a knight, which is normally equal material. However, Tal is a master at turning these even endgames into victories. He finds bishop to e2, with the idea being that if he can target and win this h3 pawn, he would be able to promote this h-pawn eventually. It would take some time, but he would slowly milk out a win. You have to be wary of bishop f1, which would pin the knight to the pawn, and after the knight moves, we win the pawn. Knight to e1, and we find bishop to f1. Notice that if he does not defend this h3 pawn, we are going to win it. So h4, and in this situation, we play bishop to e2. The whole point is this. We are limiting the mobility of this knight. f3 is his desired square. He wants to get onto one of these two outposts. So we're controlling the f3 square. After the king moves over to d2, we just go ahead and move out of the way to h5. We are still controlling this square. King moves over and Tal finds bishop to e8, attacking the pawn on a4, forcing our opponent to defend the pawn. King to b3. In this situation, there's one move that will keep this game a victory for Tal, and he finds it, bishop to c6. He is limiting the most important squares for this knight, and eventually the king will be able to come in and win these pawns here. In this particular game, Tal's opponent had no good moves to play and instead went for king to a3, a pretty wasteful move that allows king g6. Notice here that we will get to h5, followed by g4, and this knight will never be able to block. Now take a look at this position here. Yes, white actually has an extra pawn, but look at the bishops, opposite colored squares. For that exact reason, you would normally shake hands and call it a draw. However, that is not Tal's style. He finds the only winning idea, king to c6. The whole point here is you are forcing the bishop to come to d8. He's going to play king to d7, chasing the bishop away. Notice here that c7 and d8 are no longer safe squares, and the biggest disadvantage in this situation, Tal's able to point out, the king is not developed. It's all the way on h8 in the corner. After bishop to f6, we play the only winning move, king c7. Notice now the bishop can't go to d4. It also cannot go to d8, so we will win this pawn on the next move. Bishop e7, king takes. Bishop b4, defending the a5 pawn, and here Tal continues to use his king to his advantage, king to b5. Notice that if the black king was involved, he might have a shot, but because of his inactivity in the position, black is in some serious trouble. This bishop's in zugzwang. The pawns cannot make any good moves, so the bishop's stuck between c3 and b4. Bishop c3. And in this situation, king to c4, because here, notice that no matter what our opponent does, we are going to have the b4 push. King to g8 is played, and here we play b4. The whole point is that if the pawn takes here, we are going to have a passer on the A file, and this will actually promote. Black will not be able to stop this. Of course, if the bishop takes, notice king takes on d4, and once again, we have a passer here on the C file. This is a serious advantage for white. One final endgame. While Mikhail Tal is known for having some of the most beautiful king hunts, as you've seen in his middle games, he's actually incredible at king hunts in the endgame as well, when there are less pieces on the board. In this situation, this pawn will promote, and black will have a sizable advantage. However, we can actually ignore this threat and play rook c7. Rook c7 is the only winning move, because after the pawn promotes to a queen, we play rook check on h7. Oh look, we win the queen, but it's more complicated than that. After king to g6, notice rook to g7, and here we are blocking off all the king's escape squares. There is nowhere for him to go other than to h5. And in this situation, Tal, the absolutely brilliant legend, the Magician of Riga, does it again. Rook g5, checkmate. The rook is checking. The knight covers these two important squares here. This is actually game over. Based on our analysis, there are 3 critical points that you must master in order to play like Mikhail Tal. Number 1, in the opening, we are developing our pieces. We are getting them on good squares, and we are trying not to trade, because the more pieces we have, the more opportunities we have for complication. Now, in the middle game, we are going to activate these pieces and attack. We are going to go after that king, and we will sacrifice whatever piece we need to in order to achieve that goal of checkmating our opponent. If our game does come to an end game, we are not afraid of even positions. We are going to look and analyze each and every situation and find weaknesses in our opponent's position. If you did find this video useful, let me know in the comment section, who do you want me to analyze next? Stay classy, my friends. Until next time.